Devlin Bishop here with you, and welcome to the Mondo Nostalgia Radio Show. And thank you for pressing play or hitting play or whatever you do, smashing play, I don't know, whatever you call it. But thank you for doing it anyhow. I am totally appreciating that you did that, and I wish I could just jump out of the YouTube or the iTunes or whatever you're listening to this on and just give you a great big hug for doing so. I just never feel I can say how much I appreciate it so much. As you can tell, I'm full-hearted today. I'm in a great mood, and it's the end of summer. And that's a little sad for me. It's a kind of bittersweet more for me because, I enjoy the summer months. Summer is not my favorite month, but season, but it's definitely one of my favorite seasons. And I love doing stuff with my friends and getting out there and stuff like that. But it's saddened because we're heading up to the Labor Day weekend. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Labor Days and what it means to me. But I call it bittersweet because, I'm upset the summer's kind of already done. And honestly, this summer flew by. One of the problems about getting old is that time just flies by. It only seems like just a couple of weeks ago that I was getting ready for all this summertime fun, and the fact that it's almost coming to an end. Now, I give some happiness to the fact that September has pretty much become a warm month now. I actually think that the way the climate change has been, May's actually become not such a great month, but September is almost becoming a summer month. But being a person who kind of judges the first of the year as of fall, I always see the Labor Day weekend as it's like my New Year's. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm old school and I always believe, the start of school, even if I'm not going to school, is kind of the start of a new year. So with Labor Day approaching this weekend, I'm already set to say goodbye to summer and move on into the fall. And that's a good thing because fall is my favorite season. I don't know why. I like it. I just like the cooler temperatures. As much as I love summer, I don't like when it's really muggy at night and I can't sleep. It's not my thing. I like those fall, when I have the window open and there's those fall nights where you're like sleeping good because the weather's good, and even if I'm overthinking and stuff, it's a little easier to fall asleep. It's nothing worse than when you have lots on your mind and you can't get to sleep and the warm weather's not really participating with you. So I'm looking forward to the fall. I also love Halloween. I love Thanksgiving and stuff like that. I love to me it's just like a refreshing time. It's not so hot, it's not really cold yet. I love how the world looks because of the changing of the leaves and stuff. And fall has always been, my favorite time of year. I also consider fall because it leads into Christmas, which I absolutely love. And usually I'm doing all my Christmas shopping, in the fall because, I try to do it early. In fact, I'll be honest, I've actually started my Christmas shopping, and you might be booing at me at the screen, but I don't make a lot of money at my work, so I have to kind of break it down into that. So if I see something that I think is really unique or something, and I'm surprised how much of my Christmas shopping I've actually started already. So now it's full speed ahead because of the fact that, I want to enjoy the Christmas season. And so I do that by getting all that Christmas stuff. So I'm not running around in stores trying to oh my God, I don't know what to get them. Or get her or get whatever, it's just, I just do it. And so, so I'm looking forward to the fall. I'm not here to talk just about the fall. I'm here to talk about actually Labor Day weekend. Because I remember as a kid, it wasn't bittersweet because even though I liked the fall, I was never a kid who loved school. I never hated school, but I also didn't, I wasn't the kind of kid that was all excited about, oh, wow, I got a new pencil case, I got a new gym bag, I got a new, erasers and pencils. I like getting new stuff and that, but when I realized that Yeah, I was getting all this because I had to go back to school. It kind of put the damper on things. So it was kind of lackluster. And as I said, I didn't hate school or anything, but I just always was uneasy with going to school. And my summers were incredible. I grew up with a great group of friends. I was the typical, on the streets, playing hide and seek, hanging out at other friends' houses. They'd hang out at my friends. We had a great group of kids. So in the summer, in the fall, we didn't all go to the same school. We lived in the same neighborhood, but, I had a lot of friends that went to Catholic school, or I had a lot of friends, some of them were a little older, so they'd go to high school when I was in elementary school, or they were in younger grades than me. So it wasn't guaranteed I was going to see them in school. So summer, I got to see them every day and play. And as I said, I really enjoyed my summers, whether we were, as I said, all the games I mentioned before, or everybody coming over to my house to swim in my pool, or just, run through the sprinkler. We just did fun things. And, so I was always, when Labor Day came, I was always like, oh no, it's already here. I've gotten to a bad point in my life, as in the fact that when I get excited about something, and I'm only saying this not to be depressing, but because I wondered if other people feel this, and please let me know if you do, because I hope it's just not me. And usually I've found now that when I deal with something, that I usually talk about it because I know other people definitely deal with it, and so I need to know. And basically, when I look forward to something, like, so if I have like a get together with friends and I'm looking forward to it, I'm so excited about it, there's always this little voice in the back of my head that's going to say, you know what, it's going to be over soon, and then you're going to have to fill a void. Because so even before it's happened and I get to enjoy it, there's already a little voice already reminding me it's almost going to be over soon. And that's kind of what I was like as a kid with Labor Day. I'd be like, oh, well, I got one weekend left. But there was always that dread that on the Tuesday morning after, I'd be heading back to school. Labor Day was always, like, as I said, fun. As kids, we always played it, but there was always that anxiety. We blow off fireworks. Well, nowadays in Canada, they have fireworks places that you can buy fireworks almost every week. And around this neighborhood, we tend to have fireworks. You have the fireworks on May 2, 4, and you have it on Canada Day. But there are lots of weekends that we look out the window and we can hear fireworks happening. Not a lot, but, every weekend you almost hear like somebody bought firecrackers. But I always thought Labor Day should have been a day for shooting off fireworks. And because, it's the end of the summer, and I thought May 2, 4 is kind of like the beginning of the summer and we shoot off fireworks. So I always thought it would be kind of fun if they actually, like, let's end the summer with a big, and I'm sure some places do, but I think it should become a tradition. And I'm not even the biggest fireworks fan. I just enjoy fireworks. I just think, we do it on Canada Day, we do it on May 2, 4. Why don't we do it on Labor Day as well? Like, make a big Labor Day weekend out of it. And that being said, I live in an apartment, so I'm not going out and buying fireworks and lighting them off this Labor Day weekend, because, as I said, fireworks scare the shit out of me. I've talked about it in the past, so I won't go too much into it. But I still think Labor Day makes more sense. I actually didn't know for the longest time that Hamilton actually has a Labor Day parade, which I remember when I finally found out that this was a tradition here in Hamilton, and I'm pretty up on what goes on in Hamilton. I have a lot of places in Facebook and stuff that tell me about like festivals and stuff like that. But I'm actually mind blown when I found out that we actually have a parade where like people who work actually march in a parade, like, union people or people from big companies. And I always thought it was kind of weird when I did find out about it. And I never went to one of the parades, because I always thought, Labor Day to me was like not only, it's not there to commission the end of the summer. It's like the name, Labor Day. It sounds like we're celebrating, the people who work hard. All of us who work hard at our jobs, whether it's office or, thing. And I find it weird that they would make people schlep out in a parade when this is supposed to be their day of just enjoying themselves. And I'm not saying it's not joyful to walk in a parade, but I just thought it was kind of just odd that they would have a parade on it. I always think of, my parents used to do barbecues, or my neighbors would do barbecues, and I always miss the old days when we had, like, I grew up, I've talked about this many times, in a little street in Hamilton called Fife Street, which I am so glad. I literally pray and feel blessed that I got a chance to have an upbringing like this, because literally all the kids in the neighborhood knew each other. We'd all hang out together, and our families knew each other, and we'd have barbecues, and everybody would be there having hot dogs and hamburgers, and the adults would have something more like chicken or steak, and we'd just be happy with hot dogs and stuff. And it was just amazing, and I remember Labor Day, a lot of people, we'd get together and just have the last hurrah of summer. And as I said, now it's kind of different because, September you can still, and even as an adult, but I kind of miss those days of camaraderie and stuff like that. And just, getting together. And this Labor Day is exciting because I've never really talked about it a lot, and I hope maybe next year I'm going to talk a whole thing about it. I've just kind of put it out of my head for a while. A couple of good friends of mine, Peter Jonathan and Kim Jonathan, have basically, they had a cottage up in, oh my God, Long Point, I think it is. I might be getting that wrong, but I think it was called Long Point. And they used to have all the improv people come up for the weekend, and they called it Labor Day. And it was an amazing thing. And they used to have people up like pretty much all weekend. And I would only be a day tripper, so I only came up. And I absolutely adored it. I went up about 3-4 times. And then a tragedy happened, and they decided to stop doing it. And I won't go into that too much. But I think next year, I'm going to try to remember around Labor Day, I'm going to talk about the many wonderful things about Labor Day. And it was just wonderful. I thank them all the time for it because of all the wonderful things they did for people. Like, people came together. And this year, they haven't had it for a couple of years because it was a really difficult time. But there's been time for healing. And this year, they're inviting people to their homes. It's a one-day event. And I'm very excited because after Labor Day ended, I really didn't make big plans for Labor Day. Because as I said, it's just another weekend for me. And I'm not saying I never did anything. I'm sure I had friends over and stuff to celebrate it. But what happened was this year they decided to have it. And I totally cleared my schedule and said, I'm totally going to go to this. And from what I see, it's going to be one hell of a reunion of people coming out to it. And I am so looking forward to that. And it's going to be great because it's kind of like a return to it. It won't be the same, but what I like about it is that it'll have a similar feel, but it's going to, be a nice refresher. And I look forward to that. Anyhow, so whatever you're planning to do Labor Day, I hope you have a great one. I always like it too because, as I said, it's my New Year's. So at New Year's, you're like, oh, it's a new year. We can do this, that. But this is going to be my year to reflect as well. And so, Labor Day, I'm always going to look to the future and I'm excited about the future. I really don't know what it's going to hold, but since I've made the changes in my life, which I am going to talk a little bit about. I probably not yet going into details of what I'm doing, but a little bit. I'm only skeptical about going too much just because of the fact that I want to make sure, knock on wood, 3 months have been going great, but I want to make sure there's still going to be, I don't want to tell people like this works and then I fall off the deep end and stuff like that. So, but anyhow, I will be looking to the future and thinking of stuff and looking forward to spending time, because even though I'm going to be doing the Yabur Day barbecue this year, I'll probably do something with my friends on other days. So I really look forward to that. And it should be a lot of fun. Anyhow, that's enough talking about Labor Day. And right now I'm going to talk about something else. It's a movie review. I got to finally see The Meg, starring Jason Statham and Ruby Rose and Lai Bingbing, Rainn Wilson. And I've been looking forward to seeing this one. I'm a big fan of shark movies. They scare the hell out of me, but I definitely was looking forward to seeing this. It took me a couple of weeks, but I finally got to see it in theaters. It probably still is in theaters. We're now into the movie area where movies don't get, they stick around a little longer. August, they're kind of like a dumping ground till about September, and then they'll start be bringing out some big name movies again. And so I look forward to giving my review right now for The Meg. Now, before I get to The Meg, I've actually been watching a lot of classic movies. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast, but one of the things I've added to my list is I've decided, since I'm becoming a movie reviewer and doing the Damien and Devlin show, quick plug for that awesome show, I want to start watching more classic movies. And I love it. I've been enjoying it. I started doing it a little more. Now, I've seen a lot of classic movies, but there's a lot that I feel I need to see. And I recently started with a couple of Billy Wilder classics. And I'm hoping to get to talk about some older movies in the week, since this is Mondo Nostalgia Radio. I hope to get to that. And I recently watched Billy Wilder's classics, Sabrina and The Apartment. And I don't know why I waited so long to see these movies. They were great. So, along with the new movies that I see, I might start reviewing some older stuff as well here. And, if you like my reviews, then by all means check them out. And again, a shameless plug. Check out the Damien and Devlin show. It's a review show like you've never seen before. Two generations coming together to talk. The Meg, what is it? It's a giant shark movie. It's about a megalodon, which is a dinosaur shark that is kind of released back into the world after being hidden for so long. It's based on a very successful 1997 book, and it was written by Steve Alton, and they just brought it to the big screen. It was directed by John Tom, and as I said, was starring all those people. Jason Statham. When I heard Jason Statham was attached to this, I was really surprised, because it made me think that they might be going a little quirkier. And I kind of, as much as I like the quirky shark movies that have come out, I really kind of look forward to some that are a little bit more serious. Like, nothing will ever top Jaws. Jaws was like an entity all its own, and even when I watch it, it's more drama. It's more adventure than it is like a horror movie. But it has that element in it as well. But, all the other ones that have come apart have, a lot of them have been tongue-in-cheek, now that we've gotten the Sharknadoes and the Sharktopuses and all the snow sharks and ghost sharks and just anything shark movie. Now, there has been a couple that have tried to be a little bit more serious, 47 Meters Down and The Shallows. Both kind of successful in their own ways. Out of those two, I definitely recommend The Shallows more. But it's nice to see that they are still trying to make serious shark movies. Now, when I saw this and they cast Jason Statham in it, and I'm like, are they going for a serious tone or are they going for comedy? And the answer, now that I've seen it, is kind of both. They kind of play a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but they actually keep it more serious than you'd be surprised. They actually try to play it in a serious tone, and for the most part, it works. I actually enjoyed The Meg a lot, but there are a lot of shark movies that I actually think are better. And like, as I said, nothing will top Jaws, but I kept thinking, I enjoyed The Meg, but it was no Deep Blue Sea, or Jaws 2 even, or Piranha, which I know isn't a shark movie, but it's in the same vein. And I meant Piranha as in the original and Piranha as in 3D, because both are really great in their own ways. And I still had a lot of fun with the Meg, but I felt that it kind of lost something in the translation. Jason Statham, I loved seeing him in this movie. I actually am a huge Jason Statham fan. I remember crushing on him big time when I first saw The Transporter. I'm sorry, I don't know how many times when I got that Blu-ray did I watch that action sequence where he's like shirtless and in all the oil. And yeah, I'm not sorry. I know I'm probably losing points as a serious movie reviewer, but that was just absolutely incredible. And yeah, and when I've liked a lot of others movies that he's done, like I thought he was one of the best parts of the Expendable franchise, Crank. Uh, it's hard to say some of his other movies because a lot of them basically have one-word titles like War or The Mechanic, or it's just like they seem to be interchangeable. But he's always really likable in them, and I've always had a thing for Jason Statham. And I really think he's one of the best parts in this. He plays kind of like a marine biologist or something like that. I'm totally wrong on that, but he's a scientist as well as like this guy, and he's just amazing in this. Like, I love that he has this. They do like one of those things that most action movies do, a trope where you see that he has in the opening sequence, something happens where he can't save as many people as he likes, so he basically gives up on life and, lives, just basically just being like a bum somewhere, and then they call him in because he's kind of has a fear of the water, and they try to deal with that a little bit, and they do it kind of nicely, but it's funny how like he kind of has trepidations of going back down to the sea, and then like maybe the next day he's literally almost practically jumping at the jaws of an actual shark in order to save somebody he cares about, and so it's like, so they don't necessarily 100% deal with the phobia, but Jason Statham has a sincerity about him that kind of makes him you get that he's not really thinking and, oh my god, somebody's in danger that I care about, I'm just going to jump into and I love that it works with him. I thought all the other characters pretty much worked good. I thought Lai Bingbing was really good. Rainn Wilson was kind of an interesting character. I liked him. I know a lot of people kind of complain about Ruby Rose, but I actually thought she was fine. And I thought, it was a pretty good, solid cast. And they build tension. They don't just jump into stuff, which I liked. I think a lot of people might consider it kind of slow at the beginning, because it's a mild spoiler here. When you see the trailer with a lot of the, the shark hitting the beach, that's pretty much the last half hour of the movie. And I'm not saying there's not other stuff to be in there with tension and there's not other shark attacks, but the meat and potatoes of it is near the end, where like Piranha 3D, the big action sequence, comes in earlier in the film. This one, it's literally near the end. But that they do a great job. For me, I thought they did a pretty good job building suspense. I thought overall the characters were okay. I think the problem I had with it is because I think it took the serious tone. Like, I didn't mind it was taking a serious tone, but then there were moments that they didn't take a serious tone, and I think it was almost too extreme. They were saying we're going to make it. Even Jason Statham in an interview has said this was not the movie I signed up to. I think the movie was supposed to be restricted when it first came out. They wanted more blood and guts. I honestly don't know how they would have got more blood and guts out of this, because the shark is so big. He's pretty much swallowing things. He could just basically swallow a whole ton of swimmers. He could swallow a whole small boat if he wanted to. That's another thing that took me out of the realism. Although the shark effects look really good, what I had a problem with was there are more than a couple of close calls where people are swimming towards, a boat, and, a couple of times the shark misses, and the size of the shark, I can't imagine, one, him missing, and two, that when they do make it to the side of the boat, how he doesn't just take a piece of the boat with him. Like the shark almost misses precisely, and I think that took me out of the realm of the, as much as the shark looked great, it took me out of the realm of belief because of the fact that I never felt, no, they do build the tension that a couple times I thought, oh, that character's going to die and stuff like that. And sometimes, they did surprise with killing off characters. But, a movie like Deep Blue Sea, which had a little bit of tongue-in-cheek but still was played serious, just worked much better because the sharks were faster and smarter. Having a shark this size, there was times that it's like, I don't understand how it would miss, or how it wouldn't have caused more damage than it did. And there were also times that they'd establish something. The shark would, a boat would go by and the shark would pick up the vibrations of the boat and then go after the boat. And then there were times that there was blatantly boats or commotions in the water and the shark didn't, it wasn't even paying attention to it and stuff. Now, I don't know, that might be more realistic, but I just thought it took me out of the moment because it just didn't feel like anything. Meg is a very enjoyable movie. I just thought there was some better shark movies that have done it. I like that they took a more serious tone. I would have liked to see the movie that Jason Statham signed up for, whether it was more blood and guts or more thing. But I just felt that because they went to PG, there were times that they just kind of backed away. And as I said, it was the disbelief of the realism that it's like, there's no way this shark couldn't have gotten that person, or I don't see how he would have missed that person, or how he wouldn't have caused more damage. There are a couple of nice jumps, not as many as I would have liked. I always get worried seeing shark movies at theaters because I jump a lot. But there were a couple of nice moments that, even when they're coming, they do it in a way that you didn't really expect, which was quite nice. And so, that being said, I think if you like shark movies, you'll probably have a lot of fun with The Meg. And I give it a 3 out of 5. And I definitely think that if you get a chance to see it in the theater, I think it'll probably be a more interesting film to see in the theater. I didn't see it in 3D, but I could see there were moments that probably would have worked. Although there's a lot of underwater stuff, and I find that with the 3D, it makes it darker, and underwater stuff doesn't necessarily translate, so be wary of that. Anyhow, The Meg's good fun, and definitely something if you're looking for light entertainment on this Labor Day weekend. You could do worse than The Meg. Anyhow, I'm going to take a short break, and when I come back, I'm going to talk about a little bit about, the successes I've had about it. I keep going back talking about personal things because I told you, Mondo Nostalgia, I was going to try to concentrate more on movies and stuff, but I was never going to back away from personal stuff, and I've had a couple people who've listened to the show that have basically said that they actually like when I go personal, so I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to take a look at the loss of Aretha Franklin. She passed away this past week, and she touched my life enough that she deserves a segment on the show, and we're going to talk about the Queen of Soul right after this intermission break.
Class, come to order. Pay attention just once. We have a lesson to teach to the dunce. Is the candy good conviction?
Yeah, the tasty is perfection.
Have we got a good selection?
We invite your close inspection.
Is the ice cream not delicious? Healthful, tasty, nutritious. Is the popcorn crisp and healthful?
Yeah, and it is sure a mouthful.
Is the soda cold and fizzy?
Vitamins keep the bubbles busy.
That's good. The lesson is learned. The trip to the sweet spot you have earned. Now is time for intermission. Treat yourself to some nutrition.
Devlin Bishop back with you, and hopefully you grabbed a snack or a drink or something, or ran to the bathroom, whatever you had to do. And we are back talking, and this past week we lost another legend. Now, I know when people die, some people use the word legend a little loosely, but in this case of this singer, There's no way the word legend is being tossed around lightly. She earned her dues to get it. And of course, I'm talking about Aretha Franklin. She passed away recently. And she had been dealing with lots of health problems. So it was one of those deaths that weren't really surprising, but definitely still had an effect on the world. Now, I've always been a big fan of Aretha Franklin, but if I had to list my 10 most influential females, she wouldn't be in my top 10 list. That's not saying she is an amazing performer and stuff. It's just she was somebody that I've always had in my record collections, and I think she has one of the most amazing voice ever, but just she didn't touch my life quite the same way as some other female singers have, but that doesn't diminish the impact she had in the music world. For me, I probably first knew her with Respect, the song that, a lot of people did. I grew up in the 70s, and my parents listened to oldie stations, or, CKOC did their top 100 countdown. I remember Respect, and I probably at the time didn't really even know who sang it. I just knew it was an amazing song. I knew I loved the vocals. I knew I sang it. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. It's just an amazing song. But I probably didn't take notice to Aretha Franklin until the 80s. I'm a child of the 80s, so I apologize for that. And when she came out with the single Freeway of Love, I was a huge fan of that song. I know a lot of people write that off as just fluffy and, compared to some of the other hits she gave us, but I'm just being honest here. I love the song Freeway of Love. I still love the opening beats to it. I get excited when it comes on. Then I probably, continued listening to her in the 80s thanks to, songs like Who's Zoomin' Who and I Knew You Were Waiting for Me, a song she did with George Michael, which is probably one of her biggest charting songs. It was actually a big #1 song. Which is surprising because apparently the rumors were that Aretha and George Michael didn't really get along, but they gave us this amazing duet in the 80s. And I remember when she died, Mike said, they can now reunite and sing that song in heaven. And I keep forgetting that George Michael has passed away too. And he was totally right on that. Now, the 80s wasn't just about her cheesy songs that I fell in love with. I was obsessed with the Big Chill soundtrack, which had a lot of Motown classics on it. And I believe on that album, one of the songs on it was You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. And it was probably around this time. I'm the kind of person that when an artist starts, getting songs I really love, I start looking into their past catalog. So it was around this time when I realized that, the woman who sings Natural Woman and Respect is the same woman who does Freeway of Love and Who's Zoomin' Who and all that. So that's when I started getting into Aretha, and, then I discovered great tracks like Chain of Fools and Think, and I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You, and her version of Say a Little Prayer, and just, Don't Play That Song, You Lied, Rock Steady, her take on Spanish Harlem, Daydreaming, and the list goes on and on. She just gave us so many great iconic songs, and her voice was so distinctive. And I read an article after she passed away about how many artists actually probably replicated her. Like, they kept their own identity, but it was kind of a tribute to her. And she had that growl that just commanded the song. Now, Respect wasn't her first, she wasn't the first person to record Respect. It was actually recorded by, trying to find out here. I'm going to look into it. It was a cover by another artist. I can't remember. But his version, and I'm sure it was a male single, was different. It was kind of like he was talking to a lover. He was talking to somebody he just demanded respect from. But when Aretha took it and made it her own, her father had been a big person in the civil rights movement, and Aretha, because of that, became big into civil rights, women's rights. She was also into indigenous people's rights. She was fighting for First Nations and stuff a lot. She got into rights, and when she growled that song out, just sang it so beautifully, she not only made it her own, but she kind of spoke for the civil rights movement. She spoke for women's rights. Like, she wasn't just talking to a lover. Like, yeah, on the surface, she's talking to a lover, but that song became an anthem. And still to this day, even as a kid, when she sang Respect, I knew that was a song that was empowering. You know, that was a song that was saying, look at me, damn it. I have a voice and stuff like that. So it's powerful. So she gave us a tremendous amount of songs, and it's just a definite loss. She won 18 Grammy Awards in her lifetime, many for just Best Female R&B Performance. And, you know, she has sold over 75 million records worldwide. And, you know, obviously she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. She's won so many acclaims. Rolling Stone magazine did lists. She appeared on 2 of them, including the 100 Greatest Artists of All Time, and she was voted number 1 in the 100 Greatest Singers of All Time, and deservedly so. Her music will live on forever, and I know people of all ages who were touched by her passing. You know, I always put down Facebook sometimes, but there's lots that social media does that's good. And one of the things I loved is, you know, when a big artist like this passes away, people share their favorite songs or stories about how this person touched them. You know, just hearing how they pay tribute to him. I know a couple people said that they spent the night having a nice glass of wine and putting some old Aretha vinyl on, and I love that kind of stuff. You know, it kind of brings us together. I saw people of all ages talking about her, from people who were young when she was coming out and they grew up with her music, to younger people who discovered her later, and that's just incredible to see. And quite frankly, it's just inspiring. You know, a lot of people remember her from her doing the song Think in the 1980 comedy The Blues Brothers. You know, a lot of people, when they think of Aretha, they think of her performance in that, because she didn't do a lot of movies, but she really rocked that role where she, you know, did her song performance and stuff like that. And as I said, she also, you know, fought for civil rights, women's rights, and just an amazing lady. Even when she had health problems, she was still stepping up to the plate. When at the Grammy Awards in 1998, Luciana Pavarotti couldn't make it to do a song, and Aretha just came in and, you know, nailed this song. And we're talking Pavarotti, who has this amazing voice, and not too many people could do it. And Aretha came in and, you know, got out of her wheelhouse and, you know, did a little opera aria and just, you know, knocked it out of the park. And so the lady is just absolutely incredible in everything she does. And if you are not very familiar with her, maybe you know Respect or Natural Woman or Free Way of Love, definitely I recommend you listening to some of her stuff. Even if you just go to YouTube and listen to it, I have a feeling you're going to discover some amazing stuff, because she did everything from pop to R&B to gospel. Some incredible gospel music there, and her live performances are absolutely phenomenal. One of the comments I realized was she died on August 16th, 2018, which is the day that Elvis died. And when I came to the conclusion that the King of Rock and Roll and the Queen of Soul died on the same day, it blew my mind that we lost the King and Queen on the same day. And I can't think of a more worthy person to share Elvis's death date than Aretha Franklin. And, you know, I always have a little bit of tenderness in my heart when on that day thinking about Elvis, and now to be thinking about Elvis and Aretha, it's like just the amount of music those two people gave us is just incredible. So if you're looking, don't have lots of big plans, then definitely check into some Aretha. You will thank me later. She was just absolutely amazing. Anyhow, that being said, we're going to move on. As I said, Labor Day for me is kind of a time to reflect to the future. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my past here. The last 3 months. As you know, I've made some big changes in my life. I hit a wall, and I had to make the changes because I don't think I would have been lasting too long. And I'm still not at the point where I want to talk too much about the things, but just to give you a little bit of an overview, some of the things I have changed is just the way I rethink things. I overthink. I'm one of those people that writes stories in my head, and I got to remind myself that that doesn't always is not a positive thing. And, sometimes I don't know the full story, and my head just, and I'm not doing it on purpose. Sometimes it's my head just takes control and writes all these things, and it's just irritating. And anybody who deals with overthinking, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I hate that you have to go through it. I hate that I have to go through it. I hate that anybody. It's not something I'd wish on, my worst enemy, because it's just, it can just devastate you. So anybody who has to deal with it, I'm right there with you. And so now I try to rethink things and deal with it and think things in a different way. And it's not easy. It's hard, but I do it. And I read an article about, I'm always reading new articles, and I found one like 6 ways to, deal with overthinking. And as I said, as I find more and more success with what I'm doing, I will talk a little bit more openly to it. Been watching a lot of motivational speakers, and basically that's been very helpful. I've been trying all kinds, even out of stuff that's out of my wheelhouse, that I'm like I'm trying to find answers everywhere I can. One of the big ones is I try not to think about suicide at all. In fact, I'm trying to eliminate the idea of it into my head. Now, that doesn't mean I'm playing dumb, and I'm not saying it wasn't a part of my past or attempts or something, but I'm watching how I deal with things, as in, I don't say things like, oh, life will be better when I'm gone. Or I catch myself when I'm about to say, I think in the 3 months I did it once, and I tried not to reprimand myself too much, but I remembered myself okay, don't do that. That's shitty. Do not do this. And so I watch how I phrase things. I also don't deny that it was part of my past, and I almost did it, and that I think about it and that. And if somebody wants to talk about it, I will talk openly about it, and I'll embrace the fact that it was a part of my life. And so, if I hear somebody who's talking about suicide and they want to talk about it, it's a topic now. It's going to be said. But my number one thing is I basically have told myself this is not an option for me. And because of that, I'm not going to use it to get attention. Oh, you'll be sorry when I die. I won't do that anymore, just because I see now the effects it takes on my family and friends, and when my parents used to say stuff like that to me, or other people say it to me, and I won't use that anymore. But right now it's not even an option, so it's not on the table. So that's a huge one. Wipe it. It's not even, don't even go down that route. I want to see how my life plays out. I want to see how long I live. Whether life's hard or easy, I want to be there for all of it. So, and there's a lot more that I could go into detail for, but I'm looking to the positive that so far the 3 months have been great. There are times that I've been hit with stuff in the last 3 months that have basically would have put me in a depression a long time ago. And the fact that I have gone from what would have been 5 days of dark depression thinking about suicide, and now I can usually pull myself out already starting, maybe not perfect, but already starting better after only a few hours is huge. I've talked to Mike about it, and he has said that he is so proud of me. I've had some lunches with some incredible friends that have dealt with some even more serious mental health. They've been diagnosed, they've had, dealt with different kinds of medicines, they've dealt with different kinds of doctors, they've even had stays in mental institutions and stuff. And I've talked to them, I've had lunch with them, and we've had, good times. We don't just talk about that, but when we get around to it, I ask them stuff, and they ask me stuff, and I tell them the stuff I'm doing in a little more detail, and a couple of them have told me that basically all the stuff I'm doing is basically stuff that is all positive and stuff that I would have been told to do if I went to a psychiatrist. Now, I'm not saying going to a psychiatrist is off the table or medicines are off the table, but right now I'm just trying to deal it for myself, and so far so good. Now, I'm a little scared because the last time I had a good run, it was about 3 months, and so I constantly am waiting for the rug to be pulled under me. This week had some challenging moments, and I thought I could have gone down that way, but I again made it out, so I'm really holding up hope. But if I do slip up and I have those dark days, I don't kick myself either. I celebrate the victory that I came out of it instead of spending all the time thinking about, how could you be so stupid? I don't do that anymore because it's just not for me. But I love that these people not only told me that I'm doing the right thing and I'm heading in a good course, but they also gave me little strategies to deal with. And I'm taking strategies from everyone, and then I will try it. And then if it doesn't work, I'm thankful I tried it. And sometimes if it works, it goes into my little arsenal of how to deal with this. As I said, this is the fight of my life, and I need all the arsenal I can get. And for that, I'm looking forward to the future and, and seeing where things take me. I'm not putting a lot of pressures on myself and taking everything a day at a time. And I'm so happy about that. And I promise I will talk about it in detail, maybe in a couple more months when I think that, okay, this stuff is definitely working now. But I will. But right now I'm just kind of telling you all this because if you're in a bad place right now, you can do it. And I know it sounds cliche, because I always said it sounded cliche and I hated it, but it really does come down to you. You can go see all the doctors you want. You can go talk to as many friends as you want. You can have lunches. You can go in depth talking about it. If you do not want to make the changes, they're not going to happen. It is a lot about positive thinking and making the choice to want to get better. I used to hate when people said, it's your choice, but it most certainly is. And that's a big part of it. One of the motivational speakers that I talked to, or watched, not talked to, I didn't have a conversation, I wish, they talked to me about choice and gave me some things to really work, and that seems to be really good. That doesn't say you're not going to always be right on the money. I lost it a couple times. But the key is not to kick yourself, say that that's life. You screw up. But you can't wallow in it for weeks or days on end. You need to say, it's the way I perceive it. I can change this. And I'm telling people this because with Labor Day coming, for me, a new year is starting. If you're having difficulties, you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there. And some people give up. I hate to say it, and I'm not trying to be all thing, but there are people that will go on Facebook, post inspirational things, but just when you read their statuses, you can tell that they're withdrawing. When they're telling you they're withdrawing from life, don't hate me for that. Yeah, it happens. It's easy. But there is a way out of that, and that is to want to get out of it. Some people, it's just too comfortable to stay hidden. And I think people dwell in that. And you need to actually say, I want to make this better. And there's a difference by saying you want to make this better and then doing it. And you do not have to take big leaps to do it. You can do baby steps, because every step forward is a positive one. And yeah, I hope this motivates at least one person, because it can be done. You know, I want to say I'm a success story. I think it's a little too soon to say I'm a success story. But you know what? I'm going to celebrate I'm a success story. And yeah, it's going to work. And this one's going to take. I'm going to do everything in my power to make it take. And so if I can do it, you can do it. It took me way too long. I wish I was younger and I said this, things would be different, but I'm not looking back either. Again, this would be a time when I'd be like, oh, I could have done this so much time. And then I would have got depressed, but don't do that. Let's just concentrate on where you are now and where you're going tomorrow. Anyhow, that's a nice positive way to leave things. I'm hoping to have a co-host in here soon. I've been a little lazy in trying to contact people, but I'm going to get one in here in the weeks ahead. I can't promise next week, but I will do my best. I'm desperate to use these topic teaserama. A friend of mine gave me a wonderful batch of topic teaserama, and I'd like to get a couple people in to do those, but that takes time to get it all ready, but we're going to do it. We're going to totally do it, and that's coming up soon too. Anyhow, have a great Labor Day weekend, or a great weekend, whenever you watch this. Thank you for tuning in again. It means the world to me. Just you pressing pause and spending an hour with me, I can't even use words to tell you how much I love that you did that. And 100%, if you made it to the end of this and you were standing right in front of me, you would have get the biggest, warmest hug I could possibly give you, because it means so much. I know time is so hard to give out now, and there's so many ways you can use it, and the fact that you chose to use it to listen to me, my heart goes out to you. Anyhow, I'll see you next week, and I'll talk to you very soon.